while you're getting out those handouts. Yesterday we reviewed, do you need another copy? Back there it says comparing tests back there in the folder. So just to review, yesterday we created dot plots of the data because as we established, when you put stuff into a visible representation, sometimes it makes it easier for us to understand what's happening. We talked about the difference between the mean versus the median, and when you've got a number that's an outlier that kind of throws off the rest of your data, and we did that with dot plots. Today, we're going to go to a graphical representation that you guys have seen before. We actually made one in class using our little heights and our bodies. We're going to construct a couple of box and whisker plots. And you're going to need your graphing calculator to help you with this because remember I said that graphing calculator is going to save you a lot of time. I'm getting ready to remind you how that's the case. So remind me what just like when we had to do box and whisker plots by hand. Somebody help me out and remind me like what were the steps that we had to do. So we lined you up in order from least to greatest. And then what was the next thing that we did? So first we had to write you in order from least to greatest. Do you remember what the first thing was when we were doing our box and whisker? So when we got our... Okay, so we had our list of numbers. And remember that we had to find the median. We had to basically like chop our data in half. Then we had to find the median of the lower half of our data. What's the name for the median of the lower half of the data? I know it's been a few days. The what? It's got a Q in there. Quartile, you're trying to say it. So your lower quartile, which we also call your Q1. Then we had to find the median of the upper half of your data, which we called the Q3, your upper quartile. Then you had to do your minimum and your maximum. Okay, that's doing a lot because you got to take the list and rewrite it in order. Then you got to find the median. Then you got to find the median of the upper half and the lower half. I'm getting ready to show you how your calculator will do all that work for you. Okay, so I'm going to turn your attention to the data set from second period. Grab your graphing calculator if you haven't already. And what is the key that always gets you to doing all this statistical analysis stuff? Stat. We're always going to start with stat. Now, if I want to enter those scores, I'm going to hit, what am I going to hit next, guys? Edit. Hit enter to hit the edit button. Now, I have already typed second period scores into my L1, which stands for my list one. If you haven't done that yet, please do so.
So clear it. If there's already numbers in that document.
Oh, great question, because we do share a lot of these calculators. Thank you for bringing that up. So if somebody was inconsiderate and left their numbers, well, actually, it's not really inconsiderate. I just don't tell them to get it out of there. If you want to delete it, use the up arrow to get up so that my L1 is highlighted. See how the cursor is up at my L1, and then I hit clear. And that'll knock out any old numbers. I'm not doing that because then I'll have to type them all in again, and I don't want to do that. So if somebody left the numbers from a previous class, scroll up to where it says L1 and hit clear. And we're going to type second period's test scores into that L1, which is short for the list one. If you've already done that, while you're waiting for the rest of us to type, go ahead and put third period scores into the list 2, like I've already done as well, please. Oh, I've typed second period scores into my L1. I've typed third period scores into my L2. I'm going to start off by doing the statistical analysis just of L1. What's my magic number that makes all the statistical magic happen? What's the button? You always hit first. Hit to get to the stats. Stat, thank you. All right, so now that I've got the data in there, I'm going to hit stat. But this time, I'm going to scroll over to calc. Because now that I got the data in there, I got to do the calculations with it. I am going to choose one variable statistics because we're only talking about one variable here. We're talking about scores. That's it. So I'm going to hit enter to select one variable. Now, depending on whether you have an older calculator or a newer calculator, this screen is going to look different. Don't forget, I've got a newer one, so mine automatically is going to tell me which list I'm doing. Yours might just say, some of them I'll just say like L1. Make sure that it says L1, okay, because we're dealing with list 1 first. We're not dealing with list 2. I want to deal with second period first. So if I got the right thing, I'm going to hit enter, enter, and enter to calculate. Now it's given me all of my data. So how am I going to use the information it's given me to find my box and whisker? First of all, somebody remind me what this little symbol, what does that one mean? That's your mean. Remember the X with a line over it, that tells you the mean. Okay, so the very first step that we have to do to make a box and whisker is we got to find the median of this data. Okay, guys, the only people that should be talking right now are the ones talking to a teacher. Okay, so I need a median. Now, before, you had to put all those scores in order from least to greatest and find the one in the middle. Now, all we got to do is scroll down. Oh, no, did I just hit clear? That. Okay, so on my new calc, all I got to do is scroll down, and look, it gives me the median right there, the median of 17. So if I'm making a box and whisker plot of third period, I'm going to take that median that is given to me by my calculator, no longer, and on your test, and by the way, you have a quiz where you're going to do this Friday too. You don't have to do all that where you put it in order and all that. Just type the numbers in. The calculator will do it for you. So I'm going to put a little coordinate. I've got my number line right here that we're going to put our box, and on your paper it says box plot. Scroll down to where it says box and whisker. And we're going to put a coordinate right above the 17 to represent that median. So that's going to be the middle of our box once we get started with that box. Yes, sir?
I didn't have a laptop when I was...
Okay, baby. So, yeah, please write your numbers over the top of it. It makes it so much easier for me to grade. Now, remember that our next step was that we found our lower quartile. We found the lower median of our lower half of our data. Well, now, just like the other thing, your calculator, it does it for you. Look right there, Q1. So the left side of my box is going to be right there over the 15. Okay, so the left side of my, or what's getting ready to be the left side of my box is that 15. Somebody scroll down for me because I've got my screen frozen right now. Look in your window and tell me what your Q3 is because it's 26. So, of course, we're going to put a little coordinate right there above the 26. So from now on, guys, your calculator is going to do a lot of the hard work for you. You don't need to put them in order from least to greatest anymore and find the number in the middle. So now we need to construct our box. So that Q1 is the lower half, so that's the left side of my box. That Q3 is the right side of my box. You guys know I can't draw, so you're just going to have to excuse the crappy drawing there. Now, so I got to do my whiskers. Okay, it's a box and a whisker plot. So the calculator also, if you couldn't figure out what your lowest number is, it still gives you that lowest number. It gives you your minimum and your maximum. So my left whisker, I just froze my screen, I realized, without going over to the... Where's my minimum? It's right there in that list for you. It's 6, okay? So first of all, again, we did our Q1, our left side of the box was 15. Our median, our middle of the box, was 17. Our Q3, what was that, 26?
Yeah.
Thank you. So we constructed our box. I didn't give myself enough room a minute ago. Okay, and then our whiskers extend to our minimum, which if we don't just feel like looking for the smallest number in our list, it's given to us. So our left whisker is going to extend out to the 6. And what is our right whisker going to extend out to? To what? What's our maximum? 43. Ah, snap! I did it again where I didn't give myself enough room. We're going to assume that 43 is out there, guys. You guys put yours above the 43. Okay, so for second period, real quick, let's double check and make sure that all yours look like this. So the left side of your box should have a 15. The middle of your box should be a 17. The right side is 26. And then this goes out to 43 and 6. Do we need to know how to get to our L2? Is that our question? Okay. So let's say we want to run the stats now for third period. So I'm going to go, I'm still going to go to the stat button where all the magic happens. So we're going to stat. We're still going to go to edit again. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not going to stat edit. We're going to stat and then what? What are we doing? Stat and then calc, thank you.
And then go to one variable.
And then one variable. Now, this is where we need to change the list. And your screen looks different depending on whether you got an old calculator or a new calculator. But the procedure for changing the list is still the same. You hit second, and do you see right above the 2 button, you see a little blue L2 button? So you hit second, and then L2. I'll do that for you one more time. I'll zoom in for you a little bit so you can see it better. I don't know that actually it's not going to make. So you go to second and see where right above the 2 you have a tiny blue L2 button. So second L2 will change your list to the L2. Okay, I told you that they're all going to look a little different. It depends on whether you got an old calculator or a new calculator. But you should still be hitting second and then L2. Enter. And enter again to calculate. So now you should have all these numbers for your third period for your list 2. Construct yourself a box and whisker plot right above. Second. Look at that L2 right there. So if you got the right stuff, you should be getting those numbers. So now use those numbers to construct your box and whisker.